If you're in the market for a pickup truck that feels and drives like a car, then the Ridgeline presents itself as the vehicle for you. With its unibody construction, a naturally aspirated V6 engine, and ample interior space, the Ridgeline presents itself as a fantastic proposition for many buyers. However, all is not sunshine and rainbows. And for every step forward the Ridgeline takes, it takes 2 steps back. So let's see what's wrong with the only unibody midsize pickup truck as we check out the 6 problems with Honda Ridgeline that you must know. Number 6. An unimpressive powertrain. Yeah, we know, a V6 engine in a truck of this size is a godsend. However, we have to say that in our opinion, the Ridgeline might have benefited from a different powertrain. Don't get us wrong, the V6 isn't bad or anything, it's just awfully dull is what it is. In terms of performance, well, it's fine. It pushes out 280 horsepower, which is okay, but it's still way too little for a 3.5-liter engine in 2024. Turbocharged 3 cylinders that are half its size are doing better than that, with Toyota's GR Corolla being the prime example of this. Now, sure, the fact that it pushes out less horsepower means that it will be less strained too, but they could have at least tried and matched the Frontier's 310 HP NA V6. They could have given it a bit more oomph, and the base model Ridgelines could have gotten a turbocharged 4-cylinder or something. That would have helped the Ridgeline significantly, as it would have both made it cheaper, which the Ridgeline most certainly isn't now, all granting it better MPG. Seriously, 20 MPG combined for a vehicle such as this one is abysmal. In addition, the engine is paired to a 9-speed ZF gearbox, which, albeit reliable, can be indecisive from time to time. Now, this isn't that big of a deal with a crossover like the Honda Pilot that the Ridgeline is based on, but pickup trucks and sports cars should always have dependable and reliable transmissions at their disposal. The 8-speed ZF that's used in virtually every other vehicle on the planet would have been a better pick. Number 5. Interior leaves a lot to be desired. One of the biggest issues that we've encountered with the Ridgeline is how incredibly dull the interior is. Seriously, hop in the Ridgeline and then hop into a cabin of any of its competitors. Every single one of them will offer you a much more eye-pleasing and interesting cab design. Even the Nissan Frontier, which was a drooling mess of gray, was fixed with the 2025 redesign and now boasts a pretty handsome interior. On the other hand, the Ridgeline is just a mess. It feels like the late 2000s here, really. Don't lie to us. Take a good look at this dashboard design and tell us that you'd enjoy spending time in it. Of course you wouldn't. It looks almost as bad as newer Tesla models. And those cars are just hilariously bad in terms of making you feel nice and cozy. And it's not like this is form over function either. The Ridgeline has made every possible wrong step in terms of ergonomics. AC controls are bound to a million buttons and switches instead of simple dials, and there's like a million other buttons that control God knows what, making the whole center console look like a Riddler's wet dream. They could have kept it nice and clean by moving all the buttons that you'll use once in a lifetime to the infotainment screen and freed up the space. On second thought, maybe not. The infotainment screen is god-awful too, so they should have just thrown out the entire interior and properly facelifted it. Oh, and those transmission buttons? Oh, the horror. Why couldn't they give us a normal honest-to-God gear lever? It's a truck, not an ATM. Just by taking a look at Honda's other vehicles should have given you an idea of how bad the Ridgeline's interior is. Just look at the new Honda Pilot and see how incredibly gorgeous that interior is. Now, if that welcomed us inside the Ridgeline, we'd be thrilled, but now we're just disappointed. It's such a shame too, because the Ridgeline's interior is very spacious, and in terms of interior practicality, it definitely wipes the floor with its competition, which makes us even more confused at why Honda didn't do anything about that awfully depressed cabin design. Number 4. Off-road capabilities are non-existent. Now, before we go on, let us say that we don't really expect the Ridgeline to be a Jeep Gladiator competitor in terms of off-road performance. It's an FWD-biased unibody pickup truck based on a mid-size crossover, and as such, it isn't really cut out for rock crawling and 6 feet deep mud running. However, we did expect it to be a little bit better than it is now. You see, the least Honda could have done is pretend that the truck can go off-road. You know, give us a drive select dial that does something to the gearbox and makes the vehicle go 0.5% better off the tarmac. That's what the competition is doing with their wannabe SUVs, and the least Honda could have done is match that. Instead, you're stuck with whatever Honda deemed appropriate for all occasions, which is to say, not much. Sure, you can still hop off the pavement and do some pretend off-roading. However, may God be with you once you start hitting large bumps or mud. You can't get out of that one without the help of a local farmer and his Ford F-150. Number 3. Bland and uninspiring design. Why? Just why? Out of all the pickup trucks in this segment, the only one that is actually predisposed for experimenting with the styling is the Honda Ridgeline. It's a complete antithesis to its peers, and it could have been much braver with its exterior styling because of that too. Instead, it seems like the complete opposite happened. Whereas its entire competition is experimenting with design, with the Tacoma looking like a muscly, athletic do-it-all truck, and the Chevy Colorado straight up taking inspiration from the Halo Warthog, the Ridgeline remained as conservative as ever. Honestly, can you even imagine a blander pickup truck than this one? We can't. The Maverick doesn't count. It was redesigned a few weeks ago, and it looks properly cool now. What's up with that front end? It looks like a Honda from the early 2010s, and that certainly isn't a good look if you ask us. It's no wonder people aren't buying the Ridgeline, as its bland design is so yawn-inducing that even those that went to buy it fell asleep while looking at it, and are still at the dealers. Number 2, limited practicality. And here's yet another issue that arises from the fact that the Ridgeline isn't actually a truck. Forget about off-roading, mud running, and such stuff. We're not talking about that kind of practicality. No, what we're talking about is the complete lack of typical truck-like qualities, such as bed space, towing, hauling, and carrying stuff in the back. The towing capacity of the Ridgeline is abysmal, clocking in at only 5,000 pounds when properly equipped. For comparison, the Ranger can tow up to 8,000 pounds. Now, credit where credit's due. The size of the bed isn't horrible. At 64 inches of length, the truck bed is 4 inches longer than the Crew Cab Tacoma, but pales in comparison with the Ford Ranger and the Nissan Frontier, both of which have bed options well over 70 inches. And honestly, what is good is that bed, since the Ridgeline has a payload capacity of only 1,530 pounds, which is 200 pounds less than the aforementioned Tacoma, and almost 400 pounds less than the Ranger. Honda should have tried a little bit harder with this one. A little hint, a stronger engine would have done wonders. Number 1. It's just an outdated vehicle altogether. Let's be honest here, we've given the Ridgeline a scrubbing of its lifetime, but the truth is, it isn't a bad truck. Despite everything, we still have a lot of love in our hearts for it, as, unlike its competitors, it actually tries to be different. But as much as we'd want to overlook its past problems, we can't overlook the fact that this vehicle is older than the Bible. The Ridgeline has been in production for 8 long years, and the platform it sits on is 10 years old, and it feels like it. You might have even noticed our overarching issue with how dated everything looks and feels like. And the problem is the fact that it felt dated even back in 2016, so you can imagine how incredibly dated it is now. And considering the fact that the Ridgeline has the highest entry price out of all the other pickup trucks, we cannot recommend it, as much as we'd like to do so. Really, we'd love to recommend the Ridgeline to you guys, but the truth is that it's so long in the tooth that it's best for it to be put down. The Honda Pilot it's based on was redesigned last year, and if we were you, we'd wait for the new generation of the Ridgeline to hit the market.